Well, hello, and welcome to a conversation with Erin Greneaux, who just wrote a great article on butterflyliving.org. Welcome, Erin.
Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, I just love your article. Erin's article is Gratitude and Grief, a Pathway to Find Hope in Christ. And you share a story, and I want you to share the story about identifying your emotions, which you figured out was a type of grief. Could you elaborate on that story? And I just love when we identify what we're struggling with because we really can't move on till we know. And that's what you did in this opening story. So please tell us what you wrote about.
Yeah, so I have three daughters, and my youngest started pre-K 4 this year. So this will be the first year, this is the first year that she is in school full time, and I get to work full time while she's in school. And this is a season I've been looking forward to a long time. A decade now of waiting for all the kids to be in school so I can do more writing and speaking and things like that. So it's something that I wasn't expecting to be sad about. I was really expecting to enjoy this day. And I drop her off at school. She skips in, no problem. And on the drive home, the weirdest thoughts start occurring to me. Um, Things about, man, I need to cancel our zoo memberships because we're not going to be going to the zoo once a week during the day anymore. She's going to be in school. And I got home and was making some toast, and I always put the ends of the loaves of bread into a separate bag for us to go to the park later to feed the ducks and the fish with. And
Aw.
I went to save the end of the bread, and I thought, well, what am I going to save the end of the bread for? Are we still going to be able to go to the park and feed the fish? And just little things like that kept coming up throughout my day, and I realized I am experiencing grief. And it wasn't something that I was expecting. Like I said, I was expecting it to really be kind of like freedom. But instead it was this grief. And I'm the type of person who usually will shove down that kind of feeling, right? Like just push forward, move on, get the work done, very task oriented. But for that morning, I kind of let myself just sit in it because I almost felt cheated. Society tells us that if we are present with our kids, if we spend lots of time with them, right? If we do all the things while they're with us, then whenever they're gone, we won't experience this grief. And I found that that was not true. And I was kind of mad about it. I should not be having to feel these feelings. I should have no regrets and just be happy in this new season. And that's when I realized that society lies to us. Um, the more present we are, the more we feel that grief because we know what there is to grieve, right? I knew
Yeah,
that
so
the
true.
the days at the park were over, those days at the zoo were over, our snuggly story times weren't ever going to be the same. We can still do all of those things, but they won't be the same. And I would not have known that or grieved that if I hadn't really enjoyed every moment of it. And that's when I realized
So
that
good.
grief can be not just something that makes us sad, but something that makes us really grateful for the rich times that we did have.
Oh, I just love that. I'm an empty nester, brand new. I have
Oh,
one daughter left in college, but she's at LSU, and we're fellow Louisiana residents. I should have said that in our introduction, which is a real treat. So I can so relate. And you almost feel guilty feeling grief.
yeah.
Like, why am I feeling this? Same thoughts that you had, I have, but
Yeah.
we
If we had
have
done
to,
this right as mothers, we wouldn't feel
yes,
grief, right? But that's
right.
wrong.
We'd
Of
be
course we
full.
feel grief.
Yeah, we'd be so full,
Yeah.
we'd be ready for them to leave.
Yeah.
But it doesn't work that way. And you talk
No.
about some other forms of grief in your article. I don't know if you have some thoughts on identifying, processing other forms of grief that you mention in your story.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different ways that we can grieve, and some of these are micro griefs, like the first day of school, and some are bigger, the loss of a pet or a family member. a changing season, maybe a change in career or job. I feel like, especially as women, we go through so many different
Mm,
seasons where our identity can feel like it's shifting a lot from one to the next. And so, of course, we're going to experience grief and all of that. But I think even harder than identifying grief is identifying our reactions to grief.
mm,
And that's where we can really get in trouble or experience something really beautiful. I think sometimes we have regret with grief. We wish we had done things differently. We wish we had done more. We wish we had done less of other things. So I think sometimes we can go back and if I only had another chance, I would do XYZ. And so that grief, instead of becoming something positive, turns into regret. Another reaction that we sometimes have is resentment. And this is
mm,
whenever we have entitlement, right? Like I should be happy. I should be able to experience joy or have this full life or whatever it is that these expectations are. We feel entitled to those things.
mm,
And so whenever we experience a loss and those things aren't possible anymore, we experience resentment
mm.
in our grief. And so those are two ways that grief can turn negative and become really just poisonous, right? I mean, that
Yes.
grief is toxic, it's debilitating. So I think a lot of times when we talk about grief, we're assuming that it is this negative thing, and we're ignoring the fact that it can be something really, really positive. Because whenever we experience grief, it's also a form of gratitude. I never would have known to be grateful for all those wonderful times that I had had with my daughter if we hadn't had them. And so that grief is an indicator that we really shared something special and something to be treasured. And that's always something to celebrate when we have something so special in our lives that when it's gone, we feel its void really deeply. Then we know that it was something beautiful that we got to experience.
I just love that. It's such a twist on grief, right? Because we
Yeah.
all experience different forms of grief, and grief can really get us stuck,
Oh, yeah.
just like treading water and going nowhere. And so you flip that and you say, find gratitude in grief. And you shared, this is a quote: to be acquainted with grief is to understand love. And to understand love is to know God. I love what a refreshing perspective. Can you
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about that quote and where it comes from and your thoughts on it?
Absolutely. So I think because we have loved, right? Because I shared this special time with my daughter when she was home with me and we had that special love together, that's what causes this grief, right?
Hmm.
And all of that is something that runs much deeper. It's a universal truth throughout humans because it comes from the way that we were created in God. And in the very beginning, God created us to be with Him, to have that intimate relationship, just like my daughter and I do. And then sin separated it, right? So we have
Hmm.
this distance. And we experience grief over that distance, but I think God experiences grief on an even deeper level than we do because He understands what really was at stake and what we really lost with that separation. And to try to redeem that, He sent Jesus, His own Son, to come and die for us. And I think probably one of the most dramatic moments in the Bible is in the Garden of Gethsemane when Jesus is anticipating his death, and so much that he's sweating blood.
Mm, yes.
And he isn't anticipating the pain. That's not what he's afraid of. What he's anticipating is the separation from his father. He knows that he's going to be separated from the father. And he's really the only one who can understand completely what that separation means
Hmm.
because he's the only one who was ever truly connected to the father in a way that we will never be able to know. And so he experiences this really deep grief. But as a result of that death and that separation, now we get to be reunited with God. Now we get to experience the fullness of his love. And when we experience that love in a broken world, it gets complicated, right? We
That's
have
right.
losses, we have things that come up that are hard. And that grief bubbles up because we know this is not the way it was meant to be. But at the same time, we're experiencing the grief because we've tasted that love and we know what a treasure it is. So it's kind of this catch-22 where it's something beautiful, but it's something hard and it's something connected to him. But at the same time, we can have hope because we know that one day we're going to be in heaven with him where there is no more grief, there's no more sorrow, there are no more tears.
That's right.
And so then we don't have to experience that anymore. We don't have to worry about the grief side of things. We can just enjoy the love side. And so we can all look forward to that day.
That's so good. And, you know, we will continue to experience grief as long as we're alive, but God's presence is available today. So anyone who is grieving and listening to this, we can call out to God in our grief. We can worship. We can ask for his presence to surround us and experience that love you talk about that Christ did make available to us. So, what a precious gift. And thank you for really reframing grief. That's why I love this article. You really helped me see a new way to look at it and to dive in and get closer to God through it and really to find the gratitude in the situation. Otherwise, we won't be available for the other people that we're called to love. We can't give love or receive love if we're stuck in grief. So thanks for sharing that. And I know you have a lot of great things going on. Can you please share what you're working on, where listeners can connect with you?
Yes. So you can find me anywhere if you can spell my name right, and that is the key.
Yes.
That's the challenge, but if you spell it right, I'm the only one, so you'll find me. But I have weekly devotions that go out through my Substack. I also have a couple of books coming out. I write children's chapter books, and I have one coming out this month and one coming out in January. And then also, you can see behind me, Sunday God Meets Monday Mom is publishing with Our Daily Bread in April of next year. So all of those are great projects. You can pre-order that one now. But I just love sharing insights that I learned from God's Word. And so it's always more fun to walk through this Christian life together with other women instead of just on our own. We can learn a lot from each
Absolutely.
other.
I agree. And thank you. I learned a lot from you today. And if you want to read Erin's article, head over to butterflyliving.org and look for Gratitude in Grief. Thank you so much for listening. And if you like this, please subscribe. We're a pretty new YouTube channel. We'd love to have you. Okay, Miss Erin, thank you so much.